Right now, there's a man in the snow, and he's terrified of what's coming after him out in the trees. He's holding a little tin in his mittens. It's really cold out here. Now he needs one pill out of this tiny little tin, but he can't get it. The mittens, they're too puffy. So he keeps trying to grab it, and he realizes he doesn't have time. So instead, he tips the whole tin back. He takes all 30 of these tiny little pills in his mouth instantly. He has no choice. Now this man, he's a Finnish soldier, and he's out in the Arctic on a mission. The rest of his squad has skied down the hill, and they're gone. They've vanished down that mountain into that white, and he needs to find them so he can escape to safety. But right now, he's out there all alone. Now, real quick, before we get into it, if you're into stories like this, survival, mysteries, the strange corners of our world, told in the way you would tell them around a fire, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, because it's one of the things that we do here on this channel. Aimo Koivunen is a 26-year-old, and he's a Finnish soldier. And he's a long way into this war that has already taken years off of his life. At this point in World War II, Finland is in a strange, uncomfortable spot. A few years earlier, the Soviet Union had invaded their country, and they forced Finland to hand over a chunk of their territory. So now Finland is fighting to claw that land back, and they're working alongside Nazi Germany to make this happen. However, the Finns are not Nazis. They have a shared enemy, and for now, that puts them on the same side. Aimo was a ski patrol in the war. It wasn't particularly a good position to hold. There were these small groups of men that would strap on skis and head out into the frozen backcountry of Lapland. This part of Finland is very cold and way up north inside the Arctic Circle. And their mission was a mix of scouting and reconnaissance. They move quickly through the white wilderness with full camo on, and they go behind enemy lines. They try to find out where exactly the Soviets are. They count how many are at each one of these locations, and then they sneak back out. And it means that they're out here for days on end in the open, in the cold that can kill you if you stop moving, carrying everything on your back, and sleeping rough in the snow. And while you're fighting the elements, while you're dealing with this Arctic weather, you're making sure that you don't get seen by the enemy, because that almost certainly means capture or death. Now, the day is March 18th, 1944. Aimo's patrol is deep behind Soviet lines, and they have been out there for 2 days straight without a single break. They're skiing, they're watching, they're moving, all while staying as silent as possible and hiding in the banks of the snow along the way. In those 2 days, they have seen nothing. There's nothing out here. It's just wilderness. No Soviets, no bases, which is actually a good thing. When you're a small patrol, they would hope that they didn't see anything when they're out on one of these reconnaissance missions. That means no enemy, and that's also a good report to bring back home. And it also means that there's no chance of becoming badly outnumbered when a real fight does break out and the Soviets find them. And so for a moment that morning, Aimo is relieved. It's been a very quiet day out here. They've circled up, they're melting snow for water, and they're resting from a long trek through the snow. They're sore, they're exhausted. You can imagine what they feel like being out there in the elements. And that's when the quiet breaks. They hear machine gun fire, and it's close. The men, they jump up. They start scanning the hillside. They're looking for where it's coming from. And they see that there's a whole pack of Soviet soldiers on skis with their weapons out, and they're already firing in the direction of where this little squad is sitting. Immediately, they realize they're outnumbered. This is the exact situation the patrol was built to avoid. They're outgunned, and everyone knows that in a heartbeat, they're going to be standing and fighting, which also means they might be dying. So the lieutenant gives the order that keeps them alive. He says, "Go." They grab what they can, and they start moving fast, down the backside of the mountain. They strap on their skis, and they're going down as fast as they can, because they know death is right there, knocking on the door. Bullets are flying all around them, snapping off tree branches, hitting the trunks, and it's all happening around their heads. Now, when you're skiing through deep, fresh snow, somebody has to go first. They have to lead the pack. They have to plow through the untouched powder and pack down a track so that everyone behind them can glide through it instead of fighting that thick snow. And the first person in the line was Aimo. He was at the front. And while his squad was slipping along the groove he was carving, he was doing the brutal work. He was throwing his whole body against the snow over and over, and he was skiing for his life, breaking a trail at the same time. And it was too much. You can only do that for so long before your body just can't take it anymore, and Aimo was getting beat up from this thick powder. He started to slow down. He was tiring out. His squad knew they couldn't stop. They couldn't take a break. So they start slipping past him, one by one, and they start cutting the trail in front of him. Aimo ends up in the back of the entire group, and then this whole squad disappears down the mountain into the white. Now he's alone, and when he stops, he could still hear that Soviet squad behind them. And so Aimo starts thinking through what's about to happen in this situation. If he can't keep going, he's going to be dead right there in the snow. These soldiers, they're out for blood. And that's the moment he remembers what's in his pocket. For this particular squad, Aimo was the guy carrying the team's ration of energy pills. It was this little tin of pills, and they've all been issued this during the war, and the idea was simple. You take one, and you get enough energy to start pushing you a little bit further. It's like an instant boost, and it's a little bit of clarity, not to mention it helps kind of push through the fear and death. And he never wanted to use them. He didn't like the idea of the mental state that you kind of get put in when you take one of these. But at this moment, there's really no other option. It's now or never. So he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out the 10 for a pill. But he's fumbling with it. With his big, thick mittens, he can't get one out. His Arctic mittens, they're the kinds that keep your hands from freezing. Like, your hands will stay warm, but they're also so big, they turn into like a single thick ball, and you can't really grab anything with them. So for the life of him, he can't pinch a single pill out of that 10. It's tiny. And so he starts hearing that gunfire behind him again. His squad has vanished down the hill, and all he sees is the snow around him. So he does the only thing he can do. He takes that whole 10, he tips it back, and swallows every pill in it. 30 pills. That dose was meant for the entire squad for the few days that they're out here, and he took them all at once. Now, he had no idea what he had just done, but at first, it works. Almost right away, he feels his mind. It starts to get lighter. It's like instant clarity. And the cold and the snow that he's standing in just kind of starts fading away, like it's not that big of a deal. That exhaustion that was dragging him down is just not there anymore. He starts to move his torso around, his arms, and they're starting to feel good, really good. And he can't stop moving them. He's got like this energy boost. So he starts moving down the mountain again, and this time, it's actually pretty easy. He starts speeding up, he catches his team, and he slides past them right into the front position again. And for a stretch, his squad is keeping pace behind him. They're working as a unit, going through the snow, and as they're doing that, the Soviets are starting to fall back. They're unable to match the pace of this small Finnish crew. But then, it all goes wrong. These little magic pills stop working the way that they had originally. His vision starts to get blurry. The world tips into like this dizzy spiral, and Aimo, he starts to lose consciousness. But he doesn't stop skiing. It's his mind that starts to get a little fuzzy. He's out of it. Lights off. His body keeps going through the snow, carving new tracks, and he feels like the driver of his body has left, and the skis didn't get the message. The last bit of consciousness is slowly fading away. He feels like he's at the end of a tunnel, and his body is just out there, still skiing, through the snow. And then finally, that blackness takes over, and he's out. Now, when he regains consciousness, he opens his eyes slowly, or at least he feels like he opened his eyes, like the blackness goes away. And he kind of comes back into himself, and for a moment, he can't figure out what's going on. He notices that the sunlight, it feels different. It's completely different. It feels like a completely new day. And he's traveled, he's alone, he's unconscious, and there's nobody around him. And it's not like he woke up on the ground and just came to. It's that his mind just kind of clicked back into his body, and he was still moving. Now, he was asleep on his feet. His squad is nowhere to be found. And also the Soviets are nowhere to be found. He's somewhere deep in the Arctic wilderness. He has no food, he has barely any equipment, and he has no clear idea of where he is. And this strange, humming, wide-awake feeling couldn't be switched off. He should be terrified and wrecked and exhausted. He should just be sitting in that snow, completely broken down. But instead, his body, it just wants to keep going. He can't stop moving. He's got this unsettling energy that just kind of keeps moving, keeps him pushing forward. And it doesn't really feel like that's a good thing. It's like a mind-body kind of disconnection. So he does the only thing that makes sense. He reorients himself to where he is. He uses his training, being in the military, and he points himself towards home, and he starts skiing again. Now, it stops being a chase and becomes something a little bit stranger from this point on. The last thing he remembers before he kind of blacked out is that his squad was being chased by the Soviets. But now it's a beautiful day and there's a calm quiet to the world around him, and he's alone, deep in the Arctic wilderness, frozen in every direction. And with no food or equipment, he starts to think about, the situation that he's in. He might be able to survive a day or two in the cold, but eventually he's not going to be able to keep going. He's got to find supplies. Except Aimo just kind of keeps going. He can't seem to stop, and he just keeps skiing forward. And the way he later described it is that he was split in two. His body and his mind came apart from each other. His body had this bottomless, humming energy. It wanted to move, and it would move hour after hour. No food, no rest, no stopping. Stronger than any man can be, stronger than any man should be, and it just doesn't feel like it's his. He's disconnected from his body, and he feels like his body has this switch that's turned on that he can't shut off. But his mind is going the other direction. He's mentally exhausted. But when he lies down at night, sleeping under the stars, he can't sleep. Physically, his body's just not tired. It's not able to shut off. He's just lying there wide awake with the wind and the snow coming down on top of him. Oddly enough, his hunger has switched off too. His stomach is not even asking for food. He starts to lose the concept of what reality even is anymore. Is this real? Is he actually experiencing this? His brain just can't make sense of what's happening. He's exhausted in his head, but still moving in his legs at the same time, and it's a nightmare to live inside of this. He's a passenger in his own body, but something external is kind of keeping him going. And out there in that state, he starts running into danger again, but it doesn't really faze him. He crosses paths with Soviet troops a few times. He moves past them. A little further along, he finds a few other Soviet troops, and he gets past them as well. He uses that military training and just keeps going. And he's basically just charging forward, like an engine firing on all cylinders with no stopping in sight. But then, he skis directly over a landmine, and it goes off underneath him. The blast throws him into the air, and he lands in the deep powder of the snow. The blast was so strong that it even starts a small fire. Now Aimo lies there in the snow, looking up, and he's bleeding. His ears are ringing from the blast, and his consciousness is kind of drifting in and out of existence. The cold starts to creep in. It's brutal, but some part of him understands this situation. If he stays down, these sub-zero temperatures will creep in fast and finish him off. So his body gets up, even if his mind hasn't been connected to it yet. And he's not deciding to be brave. His body just does it. It's like a completely different object. It hauls him back upright. He gets onto his skis, and he keeps going with that same strange energy that had been pushing him through before the mine went off. Almost like nothing happened. He's injured, but he's still going. And he realizes that as a passenger, he's just stuck in this nonstop force that's driving him home. Now more days pass, and eventually, the thing that had been switched off for his hunger starts to come back in, and it comes back hard. He's starving, and he needs to eat right this second. There's no waiting. He has no food, but he does find some pine buds near a tree, and he starts gnawing on them. Something needs to go in his body to stop the stomach from eating itself from the inside out. And so he keeps gnawing on these pine buds. But eventually, in that frozen emptiness, he actually manages to catch a small bird, a Siberian jay, and he just eats it raw. Now, throughout these days, he has the same question going in his head again and again. How am I still doing this? How is this even possible? Because he knows this isn't reality. This doesn't happen like this. He's a trained soldier. He knows what the human body can and cannot do, especially when you're out here in the Arctic. A normal man would collapse out here at this point. No food, the cold, just going for days skiing across this frozen landscape, and especially after stepping on a landmine. But for some reason, his legs, they just won't quit. Now, eventually his training actually pays off. He's been pointing in the right direction, and he sees civilization in the distance. Aimo finally reaches Finnish territory. He sees his own people, and when he comes across someone, they see how badly he's injured. He's covered in ice. They immediately stop him, and they get him to a hospital. He's found safety. Now, at this point, he's wasted down to 94 pounds. He's burned, he's frostbitten, and they found out that he's been in the wilderness for 2 weeks. His heart is just hammering along at 200 beats per minute when the doctors start checking him, and it won't come back down. He's lying in a bed, and his heart is running like he's sprinting. The staff is stunned. Not just that he survived, soldiers do survive terrible things, and they've seen that, but this is something different. This should not be a living man. A heart cannot run that hot for that long without stopping for good. They covered the distance he traveled, and it comes to about 400 kilometers, 250 miles, alone on skis, and most of it, he was just completely out of his mind, pushing forward with some magical force pushing him along the way. And they just keep asking him the same question. How did you keep going? Like, what did you do to push through the hunger and the cold? So Aimo, he runs it back to the beginning. He starts digging into his memory of the experience and retells it to the best of his knowledge. The patrol, them sitting there, getting some water, the ambush, the mittens, and the pills that he could not pinch, and then swallowing the whole 10, and then the doctors stop him right there, because they knew exactly what those pills were. The thing Aimo had been handed, the thing that he resisted, and the thing that he emptied down his throat was called Pervitin. And Pervitin is a methamphetamine. Straight up, this little swallowable pill of meth. Now that sounds insane, but you have to understand, at the time, this stuff was basically everywhere, and nobody really thought about it the way we do now. A German company called Timur developed it in Berlin in 1938, and for a while, ordinary people could practically buy it over the counter as a pick-me-up. And then the war came, and militaries realized that this was a drug that let humans skip sleep and keep pushing forward. And so they saw it as a weapon that they can use, a tool. And so in 1940, Germany put out a stimulant decree and sent something like 35 million doses to the front so troops could march and fight through the night and not have to sleep. And that's part of what was behind those early days of the war, and it was terrifying because the Germans were advancing so fast. They had armies that just wouldn't stop. And through the Finland-Germany alliance, those same pills got issued to Finnish soldiers, which is exactly how a ration of meth ended up in a coat of Aimo when he was skiing through the Arctic. Now, heavy doses will actually cause hallucinations. This is why he couldn't tell what was real and what was not, and why he kind of felt like a passenger in his own body. And his body, it would not stop. The nights without sleep, the appetite that was switched off, his mind going in different directions while his legs just kept pushing forward. He took a dose of meth that was meant for the whole squad, and he dumped all of that into his bloodstream at once. That drug is basically the only reason Aimo reached that hospital at all. Without it, he probably would have gone down that first day. And if the soldiers hadn't taken him down first, the cold would have caught up to him real quick. But now he's safe in the hospital. And that same drug is tearing him apart. It's what caused his body to waste away to near death, and it's the thing that can't stop his heart from beating like he's running a race. His heart is trying to tear its way out of his chest. The thing that saved his life is also the thing that's killing him at this moment. But Aimo recovers in that hospital. The weight, the heart, the burns, the frostbite. He went home. He married a woman named Elsa, and they had 9 children. And they lived a long, quiet, ordinary life in central Finland and died in 1989 at the age 71. Now, as far as anyone can tell, he is the only soldier known to have swallowed a dose like that, alone, behind enemy lines, and lived to talk about it. And there is one last detail. After everything that 10 did for him, Aimo never took Pervitin again. Not once, not the rest of his life. He saw both things it could do. It gave his body the power to push through that Arctic, to push past enemy lines, but also he never wanted his brain to slip into second in command again, because he couldn't control what his body did in that moment. Now, if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you. If you're into stories of the strange mysteries from the deep corners of our world, then make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. It's a simple thing, but it lets me know you want to see more videos just like this. And if you want to see another interesting survival video, then make sure you check out this one right here. It's about a med student who decided to trek through the mountains in Nepal, but through a series of unfortunate things that happened, he ended up under a rock for more than a month. It's a crazy story of how far the human body can go, and it's a pretty wild one. So I'll see you on the next one.